A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 136th episode of the Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. More than a year and a half ago, in April 2020, when the pandemic had just started, we at Notebook felt that it was our place to put together a platform where educators could come, connect, discuss the various problems that they were facing, and come to a consensus about common solutions. It was started more a platform where people could discuss online education. Well, after 135 episodes, I can confidently say that we have more than overstepped our bounds. We've discussed every topic that we could find pertaining to school education. Topics have been extremely curricular, the NEP, lesson planning, and others, extracurricular, talking about sports and games, the house system. We have even spoken about topics like mental health, social learning, and so much more. Today, we look at a very unique piece of the Indian education system, particularly the CBSE system, called the Sahodaya Schools Complexes. This was mooted more than 27 years ago as a way to bring together schools in the neighborhood who would work together to cause improvement amongst each other's daily functions. We often come across the word synergy in corporate presentations, in talks, in seminars. Well, the Sahodaya School Complexes is a living, breathing system that eulogizes this value of synergy more than perhaps a lot of other things. The first speaker to speak on this topic today is Mr. Philip Barrett. Mr. Barrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Barrett served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Student Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Barrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. Mr. Barrett is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist, and we at Notebook are privileged to have him as our senior advisor. Sir, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Shubhayu. I hope I am audible.
Perfectly, sir.
Very good evening to you, Achin, Abhishek, Gagori, Meghna, all those at the head office in Calcutta, as well as our esteemed panelists and guests. At the onset, let me first say that I have never had the privilege of teaching in a CBSE school, nor am I very well versed with the CBSE curriculum. But I did read about the Sahodaya system and learned a little bit over the last few minutes. It means rising together. And as you said earlier, it started in the mid-80s to create synergy amongst the CBSE schools. So, groups of schools in the neighborhood in a given area come together voluntarily to share innovative practices and all aspects of school education, from curriculum to evaluation to pedagogy, as well as support systems for teachers and students. I believe in 1987, they came out with a rather elaborate booklet called Freedom to Learn and Freedom to Grow through the Sahodaya School Complexes, where they covered, ideas like evaluation, education management, human resource mobilization, professional growth, value-oriented school climate, and vocational education. Now, it is an interactive platform for schools to deliberate upon different policies and guidelines of the CBSE and to provide effective feedback on their implementation to establish new benchmarks of quality. Of course, it's an idea, it's a way of keeping checks and balances on the goings on in member schools. It is not very much unlike the franchisee that one sees today in the DPS, APJ, and Sri Ram schools. Schools take on the names of Sri Ram or APJs and DPS, but the mother school, it provides an umbrella for teacher training, quality management, guidelines on employment and how to train teachers and how to hire teachers. It also establishes a sort of quality, a sort of benchmark for quality. Otherwise, you wouldn't be a part of the franchisee. Now, I know schools in the Far East. I know a very good school that I visited in the Far East. It's a beautiful school. It has everything that you want in a school, except that it is absolutely cut off from other schools. The teachers have hardly any support. The kids have no sporting competitions. There's no life outside the walls of the school. It's elephant infested. The nearest coffee shop is about 40 kilometers away. There are hardly any similar schools in the area. And so it's a very insular place. I can imagine teachers don't stay there very long. They come fantastic salaries, but they don't stay. And even when schools do get there through hours of flight, then there's a bus, and then there are jeeps to bring you to the school. It doesn't last too long because the school itself doesn't have the resources to go out and play other tournaments. So what I'm trying to hit at is that schools need to be connected. Every school in a zone or a region needs, or a district needs to connect with other schools. One learns through connections, not only for sports competitions, but also cultural and aesthetic exchanges, which provide a forum where children and teachers can meet, discuss, compete, and learn from each other. In Dehradun, where I worked for 35 years, we had a Dehradun Council Schools Association. This was an association of ICSE schools. And we had more ICSE schools than CBSE schools, surprisingly. And we had all the sports, a lot of cultural events, even galas and fetes. Each one of our schools was invited to the other schools' functions, musical evenings, events, book fairs, study groups. Very important for teachers to get into study groups so they can share. They have workshops. In fact, Doon School became the center, a teacher center, where all the other school teachers would have a platform to actually train, discuss. And I never felt isolated in my subject. I had all the teachers from all the other council schools who could give me advice on my subject, how to keep abreast, what resources they were using. And this is what actually associations meet. Regular meetings of school heads were done to decide on guidelines and policies for the ICSE schools, as well as training. Also heads need to get together when the government asks awkward questions. They sometimes get after schools for not giving them admissions, or they come and ask for rights of information. Sometimes you know how it is. The locals cause problems. They cut off your water, electricity, because you have not taken in someone, or you haven't employed one of their teachers. And heads need to be supported by other heads. And when heads get together, when the school heads get together on a common platform, have a common voice, they just feel more secure. Heads feel more secure. Imagine if you're isolated and you're being asked a lot of stupid questions by the ministries. Now, there's also the CBSE Schools Association, which has a lot of athletic and sporting events, teacher training, exchanges on subject-related material, as I mentioned. Our school is also an international baccalaureate school, where the IB group has a wonderful platform where teachers meet, discuss. There's an online teacher portal where teachers can actually talk to any teacher anywhere in the world on syllabus, on resources, on how to teach. I once attended a SAIPSA conference. SAIPSA stands for South Asian International Schools Association. Here, there's a platform where heads of schools of all South Asian IB schools meet. There's a huge cultural event. It's usually hosted in a big 5-star hotel in a big metro city. I was at the Bombay event. And you learn so much by interaction. You set up exchanges. You can make certain policies, like you don't raid and don't snatch teachers from other schools. You can have certain rules which say a teacher should not leave a school unless he's done 6 years or 5 years. Otherwise, there's a lot of corporate raiding and teachers move from school to school. At the Doon School, we had the IPSS, which is the Indian Public School, IPSC, the Indian Public School Conference, which is again a group of schools, which is public schools, which again, there's a lot of sporting events, quizzes, musicals, And we used to send our teams to almost every IPSC tournament. And if you are selected here, you actually represent the IPSC schools at the junior national tournaments, which is a very, very excellent platform for college admissions and exposure to sports at the highest level. It is even more important that residential schools get together in various forums, because they're usually tucked away in the hills in some valley somewhere far away, as I mentioned, the first school. And there's even more need for schools who are non-metro schools to get together to try and sort of hold on to each other and learn from each other. And so residential schools look for similar thinking schools where they can exchange, we get into a bus or a train and go and play tournaments or go for debate contests or take a drama there. We were also a part of the Round Square Association, which is an international setup of schools, which was started by Kurt Hahn, the great German educationist at Gordonston in Scotland. And our boys, I mean, our school was a Round Square school. Of course, Round Square is a strange name. It actually comes from a school in Gordonston where there's a round garden and there's a square building in the garden. So it's called Round Square. Here, the ideals of the Round Square schools, which is ideal stands for internationalism, democracy, adventure, leadership, and service. And so all the schools that belong to the Round Square group of schools will stress on democracy in their dealings. There will be a lot of internationalism through student exchanges, a lot of adventure. I know there was a school in Jordan that came to us every year, and we took their students on treks because there was not much trekking in their country. There's a lot of service projects. I have worked at the Nubra Valley in Leh on a service project, but there were projects in Peru, Cambodia, all sorts of projects that schools got together. There was a huge degree of internationalism, leadership, service. I also attended a conference at San Francisco where I worked in a soup kitchen with my students, and we walked the redwoods and along the Californian coast. All the geography I had to teach on the Californian climate, the Mediterranean climate, I did over there. So there's so much when you learn, when you get together with other schools, get away from your comfort zone, break barriers, because so much you can learn. We are also part of the International Boys School Conference, which came out with a monthly newsletter. It's great reading because teachers and heads contributed. There was so much that you could learn from just reading the newsletter of the International Boys School Coalition. We also were a part of the Boarding School Association. I also attended a Global Connections Conference. We were also part of a group of schools called Global Connections, where we exchanged, students with other schools. I had boys from New Zealand, a certain school from New Zealand came to my house, and my boys went there. On this Global Connections Conference, where I did my leadership training at Wellington College, I was taken to Harrow, Eton, St. Edwards, Haileybury. So I learned so much getting out of my comfort zone. There is a strong need for teachers and students to leave their comfort zones, to see what other schools are doing, to take in the best, and to also share what the best that you have with them. And they're very, very quick to jump on the great things that we bring from India to those schools. We need to become global citizens. I think schools also need to lower their walls and open their doors and include more people, call the world in to see their concerts and programs, see how they do things, open their teacher centers, open it to smaller and less fortunate schools so our teachers can train them. I know that we had a lovely exchange with the Rashtriya Indian Military College called the RIMC, which is one of the oldest public schools in the country. But their students go straight to the Army, Navy, and Air Force. And we had some wonderful exchanges of teachers and students and over sporting events and over other functions. But nowadays, with the advent of online learning and possible link-ups, you can associate your school with any schools, can be in any part of the world. Pick Iceland, pick South America. And you can work along with schools and on projects, robotics, on projects like, this new sort of graphic designing issues and Yeah, you don't have to be physically involved in groups of schools. So while as I say, I don't know very much of the Sahodaya system, I'm in total agreement that schools must work together. They must group and club their expertise and their experience, because there's strength in unity. There's a lot to learn from each other. No man is an island. I think schools need to get together and take the best from other schools and give what they have. With that, I hope I have done justice to the opening slot, Shivayu. Thank you very much for listening, and over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Like always, you've given us a great flying start. I think this sets the perfect stage to discuss how schools can collaborate and cooperate for betterment of the education system. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is Achin Bhattacharya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is a fellow of the ICAI and a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shubha, am I audible?
Yeah, Achin, loud and clear.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session on a very insightful topic. Exact estimations might vary, but we all agree that our species has been walking on this planet for a very long period. Marvelously enough, we have managed to survive despite the same neuron structure that was characteristic of our ancestor, Homo sapiens, thousands of years ago. Our conscious effort to derive understanding and our continuous intellectual development have been the key factors in our strength to outlive and outlast many of our fellow species from the primitive past. So in this regard, the cumulative attempts made by our earliest human species, such as activities like hunting, building equipments, and so on, to evolve and adapt, show our initial preoccupation with the concept of learning. The only reason we are better at thinking and doing things now, the only reason that maybe Aristotle, Michelangelo, Einstein blazed into the intellectual firmament in the last couple of thousands years, and not say 30,000 years ago, is that we accumulate knowledge and pass ideas and information from one generation to the next. Now, with the accumulation, we get better and better. So with time, our ancestors must have realized that it is crucial to pass on this essential knowledge and necessary skills, to share best practices, to ensure the continued existence of the community. Education in this sense can be defined as the process through which knowledge about concepts and ideas is shared and acquired. So it is no surprise that the earliest form or method of imparting knowledge was verbal in nature, as it was this ability of our species to crystallize and store knowledge in specialized sounds and languages that facilitated the smooth transfer of information through learning from one generation to the next. In this way, the oral tradition with time was therefore the dominant form of not only passing knowledge, but also values, ideas, customs, habits, and behaviors. The ancient India was the direct inheritor of this prehistoric tendency. of this huge wealth of culture through learning, which was both experiential and pragmatic. The rich traditions and achievements in advancing education and other forms of learning in ancient India cannot be simply overlooked. In fact, a very noted British educationalist, Sir Philip Hatter, summarized the popular opinion on ancient Indian education of the time, and which is still perceived. He said, picture to yourself a group of some 20 or 30 men and boys in Indian dress in a large room in the University of Calcutta. All are seated on the ground except two small boys who stand, and with rhythmical movements up and down, their outstretched palms, chant by heart verses from the Veda with intonations that I imagine go back for 3,000 years or more. That is one of my earliest impressions of Indian education. And these were exactly his words. But then came colonial education, which was primarily meant for the Indian elite, so that the regime could be sustained. Importantly, in this regard, Macaulay and his minutes, 1835, through which he wanted to form a class of elite Indians who may be, interpreters between, on one hand, the colonizers, and the other hand, the millions of other Indians whom they governed. A class of persons who would be Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, in opinion, in morals, and in intellect. So due to his recommendation, many education institutions from different levels of learning were established to perpetuate their, to ensure that the regime survives. So the new form of colonial education gradually uprooted the traditional forms of education and teaching. But today, if we take a step back and if we look at the rich tradition, if you look at what we already had, the huge wealth of knowledge, culture, civilization that we inherit as a race, there's no doubt about it that this entire concept of knowledge sharing, this entire concept of reaching out, traditional Gurukul system, which was characterized by continuity, progression, smooth transition from childhood to adulthood. So there's a marked difference in the way education was there in ancient India and what we have seen in later period of time. Now today, of course, practically, we can't expect our teachers and students to abandon their homes and make an institution like Gurukul of their own. Of course, there are boarding schools that are doing great work, but we can at least look at the various characteristics associated with the system and practice of education, which were followed in ancient India. And that are noteworthy from the point of view of various forms of collaboration. So today's topic, when we look at it, of course, we have eminent panelists here, very senior academicians, educators, who have been instrumental in this and very experienced with regard to the entire Southern system of working. And I'm sure they will guide us and share their own wealth of experience, which we all look forward to. But as a concept, if you go by the literal meaning of rising together, I think the entire concept is very appealing, very beautiful, very traditional, yet at the same time, very modern. As we all aware that Southern School Complex is a group of neighborhood schools voluntarily coming to share their innovative practices in all aspects of school education, including be it evaluation, pedagogy, curriculum design, and providing support services. It's a huge community in its own. Just to share my recent pre-pandemic experience of, so I was fortunate enough to visit a small town. And it was really wonderful. So it was a Sahodaya event, and I was there to make a small presentation. But what I really liked is the kind of bonding that I saw among the attendees, among senior academicians who are all there. So much of love and mutual respect, knowledge sharing, wonderful thought-provoking discussions. Indeed, by the time I left the venue, I was not there the whole day, but I literally felt that it was rising together, not only in letter, but in spirit as well. From times immemorial, we have seen the benefit of working together. So if we take a more holistic view of the topic, rising together against various odds and achieving laurels and realizing dreams that maybe for a single individual or for a single institution at times seems too far. But the moment people join forces, at times wonders do happen. So just to share a few real life incidents of rising together. I was reading about this project called Genographic Project. I found this very interesting. Again, it's a collaboration between the National Geographic and IBM and the Watt Foundation. And see how much of strength this brings in when different bodies collaborate. It aims to collect DNA samples from various indigenous populations across the world, analyze them to map their ancestry, and therefore understand human migration patterns. So this project allows individuals from different countries to send in a DNA sample, and in return, they get insight into their lineage. So I think more than around 150 countries are currently participating in this research. So taking the meaning of global collaboration to an entirely new level, different level, the entire world coming together. Also, I was reading about a very beautiful story, very wonderful real life incident. And here we're discussing about one of the geniuses in history, Albert Einstein. But little do we know that he was that how he collaborated with two of his fellow students, Marcel Grossman and Michel Besson. Specifically with regard to Grossman, so I was reading in detail what he had written and how wonderfully the entire collaboration worked out. And discussion among these three helped Einstein derive the special theory of relativity. As Grossman, one of his students, was a gifted mathematician. So they even published some joint papers together, which really helped. Similarly, I was reading about the double helix structure of DNA that was discovered thanks to the combined effort of 4 people: James Watson, Francis Crick, Morris, and Rosalind Franklin. They all met in Cambridge University, where they began to study the structure of DNA together. And later point of time, while working together, while studying X-ray images of DNA, photographs, etc., so they're able to collaborate and achieve this impossible, great scientific feat. The other wonderful example, of course, our very own one of legends that our country has produced, Swami Vivekananda. And I was reading about his collaboration, his association with Nikola Tesla. One of the more unusual collaborations, I'll say. On one hand, you have a legendary spiritual leader. And the other hand, a scientist like Nikola Tesla, which brought modern science and the ancient philosophy of Vedanta closer. Tesla met Vivekananda in the late 1800s. And Swamiji hoped that Tesla would be able to prove scientifically that matter is just potential energy, which is one of the aspects explained in Vedic cosmology. It is remarkable that two different minds from different continents, background could work together and find a connection that might have led to a fundamental understanding of how the universe works. The other very interesting story, we have all heard about Procter & Gamble, one of the largest FMCG groups in the world, and making everything, so starting from batteries to shampoo. This was actually founded by 2 brothers-in-law, William Procter, who was a candle maker from England, and James Gamble, who was a soap maker from Ireland. And then both of them moved to US, to Cincinnati, where they met and went on to marry the Norris sisters. It was the father-in-law who persuaded them to become business partners. And the other very interesting part of the story is the company during its initial years manufactured soap in a big way. Soap. And since they sponsored many radio programs back in the day, the programs came to be known as soap operas. So that's how this entire term has become so popular. And last, but very interesting incident about, again, one of the legends that our country has produced, legendary mathematician Ramanujan and G.H. Hardy. Perhaps one of the most well-known real-life examples. Ramanujan was a shipping clerk and self-taught mathematician in Madras. Eager for recognition in early 1910, he decides to write to professor at Cambridge with his theories. And among those who contacted G.H. Hardy was so impressed with him that he arranged for him to go and visit him, and where he worked. Hardy remained one of his mentors for many years. And the story also goes that once while visiting Hardy in London, Ramanujan told him that his taxi number was rather dull. And upon hearing that the taxi number was 1729, Hardy immediately said it was a very interesting number. The smallest number expressible as the sum of two positive cubes in two different ways. This gained popularity as a taxi cab number in mathematician circles. So these are some thoughts that I wanted to share. Of course, today's topic, I find this topic very relevant and very insightful. We have a wonderful panel here today, and I'm sure that all of us are looking forward to hear from them with regard to their wealth of experience. I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. Over to you, Shubham.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, as Achin mentioned, we do have a fantastic panel lined up for you. But before we go on to the panel discussion, a little bit about us at Notebook. At Notebook, we are an EdTech platform. We create video content pertaining to the school curriculum that are short and crisp. These videos help you and your students in two different ways. You as a teacher have access to these videos in your classroom, whether it's online or offline. You get to play these videos as a visual introduction to the topic that you're about to teach. Your students have access to the same videos on their personal devices at home. Whether it's a smartphone or a laptop, they can watch these videos over and over again, as many times as they want, whenever they want and wherever they want. This gives them a great way to not only feel connected to the topic, get engaged with the content, but also to remember what in class the day a certain video was played. I'm going to now play a short snippet of one of the Notebook videos. Interestingly enough, Achin just referred to a certain incident that you would see as the interest builder to this particular topic.
Once a famous mathematician, Professor G.H. Hardy, came to visit the Indian mathematical genius S. Ramanujan in a taxi whose number was 1729. In their conversations, Hardy commented that 1729 was a dull number, to which Ramanujan disagreed to explain that 1729 is the smallest number that can be expressed as a sum of two cubes in two different ways. Since then, such numbers like 1729, 4104 and others have been named Hardy-Ramanujan numbers. Hello and welcome to Notebook. In this video, we will learn about the properties of cubes and cube roots. You would remember that a cube is a geometric solid with three equal dimensions of length, breadth, and height. Imagine we have a cube of sides 1 centimeter each. So the volume of this cube is 1 cubic centimeter. How many of such cubes would we need to get a cube of side 2 centimeter? 8 cubes. And for side 3 centimeter, we need 27 cubes. These numbers 1, 8 and 27 are perfect cubes or cube numbers.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was just a short snippet of one of the Notebook videos. If you head on to our website, www.notebook.school, or our mobile apps for Android and iOS, you would find more than 10,000 such videos at your disposal. Well, now that we've spoken about Notebook, it is time to introduce the wonderful panel that we have for you today. We are privileged to have with us Ms. Kanmani Kavita, who was born and brought up in Bangalore and is an extremely passionate teacher. She has been an educator for the last 27 years and has taught in both ICSE and CBSE schools. She is currently the principal of Endeavour Academy, a CBSE school in Bangalore. She has won the Wipro Best Teacher Award for innovative classroom practices. She has conducted skill-based workshops to develop teacher competencies. Ms. Kanmani has a degree in psychology, economics, and sociology. She is a double postgraduate in English and psychology with a B.Ed in English and social science. Ms. Kanmani is a certified counselor with diploma in personal counseling skills. She is currently pursuing her diploma in transactional analysis. Apart from teaching, she enjoys reading and singing. She enjoys music, dance, and theatre and has been a part of the team that is instrumental in scripting and directing stage shows for the school annual days. Ms. Kanmani Kavita is dedicated to educating children with a hope to motivate and challenge them towards successful learning experience. By nurturing positive social emotional student development, she aims to enhance their self-confidence and academic curiosity. She strongly believes that children must learn by choice and not constraints. Ma'am, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. It's indeed a privilege to have you on the platform. We also have with us Mr. Suresh Mahalingapur, who holds a BA and an MA in English, a PGDLT in language skills, and a B.Ed and an M.Ed. He has managed large departmental annual budgets for 6 years and directed an organization to get CBSE affiliation. He has trained all the new employees in CBSE school in Gorachi. He has conducted teachers training in different schools and attended the TSC NCC camp held at New Delhi in the year 2006. As a student himself, he was awarded the best boy of the college and awarded best in drill in all over India NCC ANO training at Chennai. He has also attended the principal's workshops in various places. He is also the superintendent of CBSE board examinations for the CBSE board and worked as a president in Akhil Maharashtra Sahodaya. He has also worked as the director in Education India from Maharashtra state. Prior to this, he has worked in a number of eminent schools in various capacities. So, thank you so much for gracing the platform. We are privileged to have you here today. We also have with us Dr. Ekta Dhawab, who is the principal at DLPS Kapurthala. She's been serving in the field of education for the last 19 years. Basically a fashion studies teacher, she's passionate about using creativities in every aspect of teaching and learning. She started a teaching career from DAV School Mandi, Dabwali. At present, as I said, she is working as a principal in Baba Lalwani Public School in Kapurthala. She has been appointed as secretary for Kapurthala Sahodaya Schools Complex since 2019. She is a city coordinator of District Kapurthala since 2019 as well, which has 56 CBSE schools under her. She is also appointed as Hub Leader under the Hubs of Learning program of CBSE for the session till date. She has been appointed as a member of Inspection Committee for the inspection of various CBSE schools for the purpose of affiliation. She has received various awards. I would just try and name a few. She received the Best Principals Award 2016 organized by CT Group of Institutions Jalandhar and the Duke of Edinburgh International Gold Award 2019 at Indian International Centre, New Delhi. She has also received the Avantika Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award 2020 at Guru Gobind Singh Public School, Hoshiarpur on 2nd February 2020 and has received the Global Award 2020 of Academic Excellence for Outstanding Performance of a School in CBSE board examinations also in the year 2020. Ma'am, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. It's a privilege to have you here as well. Let me now stop the share, start the camera so that we can all see each other. Once again, thank you so much for being here today. A very good evening and a warm welcome to the platform. Dr. Dhawan, if I may start with you. Ma'am, we are talking about the Sahodaya schools complexes here. I would first like to know, does your school belong to a certain Sahodaya complex?
Yes, our school belongs to, we are a member of two Sahodaya school complexes. One is the Kapurthala Sahodaya School Complex and another is the Jalandhar Sahodaya School Complex. So we can be a part of more than one Sahodaya so that the students get more exposure. They get to meet the students of other schools and they get to be groomed properly.
That's wonderful, ma'am. Which kind of makes my next question redundant. I was about to ask, do you see value in being part of a Sahodaya complex?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think it's of great value to be a part of Sahodaya schools. If I don't go very far off, let us talk about last year. Last year was very tough for all the schools as well as for the parents. We kept on hearing in the media that, about the rift between a number of schools and the parents and the issues of fee and everything. But we, as part of the Sahodaya school complex, we all the principals got together and we created policies. We created rules and regulations that were to be followed by the parents. We also decided on how the classes would happen, how the students should be kept busy, how fee should be collected, and we created all the policies together. So now what happened is, in our area, none of the schools faced any problem from the parents because they all knew that all the heads of the schools have got together and created the policies together for everybody. I think this is the power of Sahodaya. That means we all were together and, we had no problems even during this pandemic times. So I value, being a part of Sahodaya greatly. Even if we talk about growth of students, growth of teachers, that is immense, that comes from collaboration, from teamwork, from coordination. If we talk about our school, we are very good at academics. But if I look at another school which is very good in sports and co-curricular activities, or another school that is very, very good in, they emphasize on value-based education and they groom the children very nicely and their children are very well mannered. So what we need to do as a part of Sahodaya, we need to collaborate with all these schools in our neighboring places and we need to get good things from all the schools and incorporate in our schools, and we need to make our school students world ready. And this is what I think Sahodaya does to the schools.
Wonderful, ma'am. That's so good to know. I'll now get across to Mr. Mahalingapur. Suresh sir, thank you so much for being here. Sir, we already know that you have been the president of the Akhil Maharashtra Sahodaya.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Ma'am was just talking about the various values that she has seen for her school being part of the Sahodaya.
Yes.
As president of the Sahodaya, sir, what are the values or what are the value adds that you plan for the schools who are your members?
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity, sir. First of all, as if we see the main motto of the CBSE Sahodaya complexes, it says the same thing, that rising together. Ultimately, we create an opportunity to the Sahodaya member schools to present their skills, what the teachers have, what the students they have, their hidden talent, we can say. This is the Sahodaya is the best platform where definitely they can showcase their talents. And as adding to the Ekta Madam's point, especially during this COVID-19, really it is a tough, very tough task for all of us to manage. So in this system, definitely Sahodaya does completely its value to everyone, especially for the member schools, because there are some schools, they don't want to be a member of Sahodaya, but even though we request them, we encourage them. Ultimately, what happens here, the CBSE school, where the all will come on the same common platform to develop and to understand among the schools. So ultimately, we have shown a tremendous performance. We have seen the tremendous results of other schools, especially during COVID-19. From our Sahodaya, we have organized a lot of teachers training, parents orientation programs, and we had some competitions for the students. So definitely this would have not been done if we are not part of Sahodaya. Especially being the president of Sahodaya, I requested all my members, school principals, to take one active participation and the responsibility to organize the events. So all the schools, they have very systematically managed, organized, and we reached almost all the parents and students. So that's what I'm very happy to be a part of the Sahodaya. And at the same time, I request all the schools, if you are not part of Sahodaya, it's better to be a part of it. So we can definitely rising together and learning together, we can say. That will be a common platform.
Wonderful, sir. Rising together and learning together seems to be a great tagline.
Exactly.
Kavita ma'am, if I may come to you next. Ma'am, I will also ask you for the Sahodaya that you belong to. But most importantly, I hear that last year, the National Sahodaya Conference was in Bangalore. If you could just narrate your experience there as well, ma'am.
Yeah. So I was a part of the national conference that was held last December, and it was a great learning platform. So I took over to be the principal last year, and I was guided that I first become the member of the Sahodaya. So I went on to be the member of Sahodaya, and a lot of help and guidance was given in terms of, handholding was given in terms of leading the school. A lot of workshops were being conducted, and students were also being a part of, the learning programs that were being conducted by the Sahodaya. And as far as the national conference that was conducted, it was a great learning platform because it was seamlessly conducted. There were a lot of topics that were being deliberated upon, different policies, guidelines of the board lines that were deliberated upon. And we had, courses, talks which were, where they dwelt upon the curriculum designing, evaluation, pedagogy. So, yeah, it was a great, experience to be a part of the national conference.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So you are a part of the Bangalore Sahodaya complex.
Yes, I'm a part of the Bangalore Sahodaya.
Great, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Now, this is where you get to talk about the advantages of Sahodaya. And I get to play the devil's advocate because I'm going to ask you the question that I'm sure a lot of the audience has on their mind. Schools in a neighborhood are also competing entities, right? You have a fixed catchment of students who would seek admission every year. And therefore, there's marketing, there's driving admissions, etc. In a competitive environment like this, do you think Sahodaya or actual collaboration, cooperation can happen? Suresh sir, if I may start with you, sir.
Yes, sir. Definitely. It's a wonderful question, I can say, because really it's a factual competition environment is there. But ultimately, when we go for the marketing purpose, yeah, definitely there's a competition. But as a principals, we all, especially CBSE affiliated school principals, we have some principles in our life. So when coming together, we are rising together and learning together. We are creating an opportunity for the students. So basically what we do is here, according to the CBSE guidelines, we will have the, bylaws of the Sahodaya, we can say, and there will be a proper procedure like a democracy, how it is been formed. Like that, we will be having a committee, a president, vice president, secretary, these all. So ultimately, we will be having the same atmosphere, like we want to give best to the students. So what we do is we will be having, especially in the same geographical area, we have schools. We will be having definitely competition only for the admissions, but definitely at the same time, we will be having a competition to give best results. So to give best result, what we can do? What are the guidelines given by the CBSE we are following? What is the pedagogy system we are following and what other school is following? So we have a teachers exchange program. We used to exchange the teachers from one school to another school, and we have students exchange program. So there we will have different school students to our school, and our school students will go. So definitely we have a lot of learning here. Competition, yeah, of course, competition is there. But when coming to the point that growth of the children, yes, we'll keep that competition aside, and we all will support together to grow and growth of the children. That I can say.
Thank you so much, sir. Kavita ma'am, I'll come to you with the same question. In a place like Bangalore, we have a lot of schools, right? The numbers of schools is huge. So does collaboration really happen, or is there still, this underlying layer of competition that's prevailing?
There is some amount of collaboration happening, I would say, Mr. Subayu. But then the thing is, this way of collaboration, according to me, will battle the danger of elitism in education. So that way, every kid will probably have an opportunity to prove themselves while the schools come and collaborate and work together to provide the best. So continuous professional development of heads and teachers, which is going to be an important, I think, responsibility of the school complex, will kind of bring in that standard where everybody is, kind of equally equipped to handle the challenges of the emerging times. And one more thing is constant encouragement and support from the other schools will definitely provide motivation, in this continued support. And the schools, through sharing, will discover their own resources of richness. And we will definitely be in a position to share even more, is what I feel. So when schools are mutually dependent, there is definitely a lot of success and handholding, and each one, I think, will grow together.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Dhawan, I'll come to you next. Same question, but given the geography where you're coming from, ma'am, a lot of stress is also placed on students taking their SATs and TOEFLs and IELTS, right? Do you also see competition in that sense? Or as a Sahodaya, do you say, no, it'll be education first?
So as Sahodaya, we say that, collaboration and coordination is very important. So every school puts in their best foot front in every way. And when it comes to competition, we say, let it be a healthy competition amongst the schools. And generally the schools, it's what the students experience from other schools when they go into other schools for Sahodaya events. And I think it's just healthy competition that happens. And the schools do make it an effort to put their best foot front. So they do their best. And it's not that they try to get the students from other schools. And if we talk about marketing and admissions and all these things, it is not that. It is just sharing. We share the best pedagogies, the best practices and everything with the other schools. And in that case, every school develops nicely. So this beautiful publication by CBSE that was written in 1987, and it is valid till date, I would say. This says freedom to learn and freedom to grow with Sahodaya Schools Complex. And I think we all grow together with Sahodaya Schools Complex. And I would just add on here one thing, that if a school is not a part of Sahodaya, or if there is no Sahodaya School Complex, so CBSE has given us the freedom to create a Sahodaya Schools Complex. So 5 to 10 principal schools get together and they can create their own Sahodaya group and just register it on CBSE website and become a part of Sahodaya. It has all positive things to on its credit, and I don't think any sort of competition is negative. All competition is positive in terms of Sahodaya.
Wonderful, ma'am. The good part about being a devil's advocate is I am glad to be defeated. Kavita, if I may come to you for the next question. Ma'am, we understand that Sahodaya has a lot of value that it adds. It offers a huge platform. There are national level and I think now international level conferences that happen. But here's the thing, in the last 1.5 years, we have understood the power of the digital medium more than any time before. This conference right now that is happening, I could be sitting anywhere on the planet and we would have the exact same experience. The fundamental basis of Sahodaya being a geopolitical entity, it's a very localized regional entity. Do you think that is not valid anymore? Or do you think there's still value in having neighboring schools having similar problems which are local in nature?
Yeah, you rightly put it, saying that it is actually digitalization has actually made it easier to connect and collaborate. And it is imperative that we are not just being the members of our own localities and communities, but also spread our mental faculties, to embrace cross-culture and ethnic society, one thing. And living in harmony has, not only become necessary, but a norm these days. And the challenge for us is now remain as one. So thereby we have to focus our attention on not just turning winners, like products, but rather, characters that are easily, socially responsible entrepreneurs of tomorrow. So thereby it's a great way to, kind of equip our students to become the pillars of strength for the society. So I feel that this collaborative system will teach them not just to be selfish, but also, teach them to give back to the society. And what better can we expect out of a system like this?
Right, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Dhawan, if I may come to you next. Do you think digitalization would change the way the Sahodaya structure operates, or it's great as it is?
So we've experienced the digital world last year so much that a child studying in kindergarten to the principal sitting in the office have experienced this digital world. What we did is we are 50 schools as member of the Sahodaya. So what we did is instead of organizing events in each school, what we did is one school organizes one event and all the 50 schools can join the events. The students can join the event because now there is no problem of commuting, there's no problem of arrangements. The digital world has actually involved all the students in the Sahodaya events. What I would say, since we got into this digital world, now we can have the inter Sahodaya events also. So we need not move from our schools to participate in these events. Rather than having these events just on a district level or just not going beyond the geographical locations, we can also have the inter-Sahodaya events now. So it will gain more importance, I think, now.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We genuinely hope it does. Suresh, sir, if I may come to you, sir, same question. Given the place that you are in, you have larger number of schools outside your region than inside your region. Do you think digital connections will help you expand your Sahodaya's footprint?
Yes, sir. Definitely. I would like to add some more points to both of them, madams, what they said. Exactly. During this COVID-19, digitally, we people have learned a lot, which we never come across. And at the same time, this digitalization helped us to enhance the quality of leadership and the quality of team spirit. At the same time, we have learned many more things where the even if we take example of students and the parents, even through digitalization, they have learned what they would have not learned during the offline classes. So ultimately, digitalization helped us a lot. Because of digitalization, students and the parents and the member schools were very happy. So they encouraged other schools also to be a part of Sahodaya. So last year, we got 5 schools new membership to Sahodaya. It's only because of digitalization. And at the same time, we used to organize a lot of competitions through digital mode. As Madam said now, Dr. Dhawan Madam said that a lot of competitions and the organized sessions they used to organize. So definitely it is only because of digitalization. Because of this, definitely the importance of Sahodaya and as well as the importance of digitalization will definitely grow like this. That's point. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Good to know that digitalization can help out in these areas as well. And those 5 new schools you added, I think that's great news.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
I am down to the last question, but this one I think from our point of view is the most important one. At Together for Education, it has been our endeavor to ensure that there is some concrete takeaway from every session that we do. So we are going to recommend some improvements on the Sahodaya system. This has been around since the 80s. It does a great job, but the world around has changed quite a bit. So there's no reason why we can't think of a few ways to improve the Sahodaya system, right? We'll go around the table one by one. If you can give me one important improvement that you see, one at a time, I think we'll put together a great list. Kavita ma'am, if we may start with you. If you had to do one improvement to the Sahodaya, what would it be?
Yeah, if I have to give one input to the Sahodaya, it would be probably that with the implementation of NEP now, I think it's time to, kind of take things forward in terms of better collaboration and see how we can, kind of help the students, bring in the community and involve, as of now, involving community is not happening. The schools are, kind of coming together, but we're not identifying how we can, bring in the community, identifying people in the community to come over into the school and help us. If that one thing can be done, if we can, kind of build in a rostrum of people in the community to help us, I think that would be a great thing to, kind of implement.
Thank you so much, ma'am. If you can dwell on that point for just a second, when Bharat sir was speaking, he listed out so many international associations that he spoke of. I think one big difference that I saw with those and Sahodaya, the average student in a school perhaps does not know which Sahodaya their school belongs to. Whereas perhaps every student in a school would know that if they're part of Round Square.
No, I'd like to differ with that, because students do know to which part of Sahodaya they belong to, because of their involvement in the Sahodaya activities as well, one thing. Secondly, Sahodaya also has been playing a major role in terms of assessments. So we do have Sahodaya that trips in, to come in with the common question papers for us, and handholding is being, there in terms of assessments, and children definitely do know to which Sahodaya they belong to.
That's wonderful to know, ma'am. Dr. Dhawan, if I may come to you, ma'am, what is the one improvement that you would like to see?
I would say, we as the members of Sahodaya, we have been doing all that everybody else has been doing. That means conducting a number of competitions, involving a number of students, having training sessions for the teachers, conducting principals meets, and all these things. With my experience of last year, what I would like to see is that during this time of pandemic, there were a lot of grievances from parents. There were a lot of questions from the district administrations that were put up to the schools. So what we could do is here, none of the grievances, none of the questions of parents or district administration were answered by individual schools to anybody. The Sahodaya school complex answered to all the grievances, solved all the grievances, answered to all the questions of district administration on behalf of the school. I think we need to go beyond the competitions and everything, and actual coordination amongst students, amongst the schools is required here. Plus, I would also say to start with inter-Sahodaya events because of the digital world today. So that's all I have to say.
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. I think inter-Sahodaya school events, because again, digitalization and administrative efficiencies from schools going beyond competitions. Great. Suresh sir, if I may come to you, sir, how would you like to see the Sahodaya system improve?
Yeah, sir, actually, basically, as of now, we have seen executive management, evaluation, human resource mobilization, professional growth of teachers, principals, everything we have seen. And very important, just I wanted to focus more on value-oriented school climate is very important nowadays. So that has to be brought in the system very systematically. So value-oriented, because we people being a principals, we should have values. At the same time, teaching faculty should have values, and the students also should have some values in their life. And the people, completely the people who are involved in the school atmosphere should have some values. So definitely that value will create a wonderful climate. So that I'm looking into.
Wonderful. So just to reiterate the list, we said engage the community, inter-Sahodaya events, more administrative efficiencies, and a value-based system that the Sahodaya can drive from itself. Great. So we have 4. Should we do one more round? I think there are more improvements that we can suggest. Kavita ma'am, would you want to go?
I think otherwise Sahodaya is doing a great job. So I think with the new policy of the education, I think we may have to come up with a lot of innovative ways to implement, and looking forward to it.
Right, ma'am. Dr. Dhawan?
I think this is what I had to say.
Great. it really shows signs of a great system when we start running out of ways to suggest improvements. Suresh sir?
Yes, sir. Yeah, same. Just one more. Just I wanted to look into that. Now CBSE has implemented this, hubs of learning. So what I used to see, Sahodaya complex is better than hubs of learning because there are no activities are being taken part, and they are not at all active, I can say. Even though I am also being one of the member in hubs of learning, but how we are active in Sahodaya, hubs of learning is not that much active. So ultimately, what are the responsibilities and the major job role is given to hubs of learning, that is better to implement in Sahodaya complex. That is what.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to all three of you. I think this was a wonderful learning experience for me. Going back to the original document, when CBSE said freedom to grow, I think the freedom part is very important because from whatever I've heard so far, the schools, the Sahodaya complexes are given a lot of power, a lot of autonomy, and it is the freedom that perhaps is what enables them to do so much, that, as we've just heard. Achin, let me call you in now for the formal vote of thanks because you'll have quite a bit to thank for.
I think wonderful, very, very seamless, you know. And I really liked the kind of takeaways that our esteemed panelists came up with. And I'm sure it really benefits all members of our esteemed audience. But sir, thank you. Thank you so much for giving us a great start. And also thank you for taking us from the coastline of California to the hills of Dehradun. So I think really wonderful. Couldn't have asked for more. And really, sir, you really set the tone for the evening. So some great points, some wonderful takeaways based on which our panelists at a point of time also deliberated. Really wonderful. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I think rising together, learning together. Very, very well said. I think really sums it up. And also, I think the value-oriented school climate, so that you discussed about, is something which I'm sure is something that all esteemed educators in this forum will agree. Something which is very close to our hearts, and also ensuring that all members of the ecosystem, so be it school principal, be it teachers, students, parents, and I'm sure, because value is something that is, I'll say, that really stays for life. The whole objective, because today, if you look at the entire education system, value is something that we really cannot afford to do away with. So I think very, very well said, sir. Thank you so much for your time, for gracing the platform, and also for wonderful ideas. Kavita, ma'am, thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. A really very mature perspective, and I was listening to you very patiently. I think some wonderful points you made. Also, the benefits of digitization and the fact that it's easier to connect and collaborate. And also, ma'am, I think you very wonderfully connected the dots in terms of implementation of NEP. And I think the other aspect that you brought in is how we need to ensure that we engage the community more. So bring in other community members and they coming in, sharing their perspective. I think it's a great idea, wonderful idea. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time and for sharing your thoughts with us.
Pleasure.
Dr. Dhawan, thank you so much. I think some great takeaways for the evening, ma'am, when you were speaking, some wonderful points you made, including the importance of collaboration and coordination. And we all agree that yes, indeed, it is very, very important. And also how you dwelled on the entire aspect of healthy competition, which I think it only helps all of us improve, right, in all spheres of life. So, and it's only very fair. And also the reference to the original CBSE document, which was published in 1987, which discusses about growing together and how it's relevant even today. And also I think one thing that you spoke again and again about, and which I'm sure all of us agree, the Inter-Sahodaya event, and how today, with the advent of digital technology and what all of us have seen, that kind of sea change in terms of adaptability of technology. The technology was always there, but the entire adaptability thing fast-tracked over the last 1.5 years. So I think, of course, that's a great possibility of knowledge sharing, reaching out to a much bigger audience. So I think wonderful event we had, and all thanks to our esteemed panelists for taking us through, for sharing their wonderful perspective, real life incidents. And I'm sure members of the esteemed audience benefited from this. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Achin. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.